All right, good morning. So we will now be looking at cultivation of crops. There are several crops that we'll be looking at, and in today's lesson, we'll be looking at Pak Choi. The other crops that we have to look at would include tomato, cassava, and corn. So let's begin with this topic, cultivation of crops, and it's Pak Choi. There's a spelling error there, is CHOI for Pak Choi. So to begin, the scientific name, you should be familiar with the scientific name. The scientific name of Pak Choi, you pronounce it as Brassica chinensis. And as you notice, the name is in italics. And whenever you write scientific names, the scientific name should be written in italics. Or if it's not written in italics, well, then you can underline the names. And the first part of the scientific name, the first letter is an uppercase letter. It begins with an uppercase letter. So you can see Brassica has an uppercase B or capital B, and Chinensis, you begin that with a common C. Origin and distribution. When we talk about origin and distribution, we're talking about where the plant was first found. So origin is where the plant was first seen to be growing, and distribution distribution is about where the plant is currently being grown. So in terms of origin, the plant originated in Asia. In the Asian countries, that's where it was first found. And it is now mostly grown in China, in Japan, and in the West Indies, and Guyana, of course. There are two main varieties of the plant, and they're simply called long leaf, and this is mostly common, and that's shown on the screen on the right. And then we have the short leaf variety of the Pak Choi. Growing Pak Choi. The soil climate that is required. The plant require rich soil. Rich soil means that you have lots of organic nutrients in the soil. For example, you may add a lot of pen manure or cow manure. It should be well drained so that the land is not flooded very easily, and not too much of dryness in the soil is also, because the soil needs to be a little moist. So loam soil is the most suitable type of soil for the cultivation of this crop. Or if you don't have loam soil, well, then you can add organic manure to help retain some amount of moisture. But if the soil is too sandy, well, then too much of water will be drained from the soil, and the plant will not be able to develop properly because of a lack of water. Planting, the plants are usually grown from seeds, and the seeds are commercially available. You can purchase them on nursery beds. So these are special beds that are prepared, and you place the seed on those nursery beds. The nursery beds are usually in shaded areas, or you can grow it in seed boxes as shown on the right. They are then transplanted in the fields about 3 to 4 weeks after you sow the seed. It means that after you plant the seed, 3 to 4 weeks afterwards, you can take that seed out from where you planted originally, probably in a small box. You remove it from that box, and you transplant it on the bed in which you want it to fully develop. In terms of land preparation, the land is plowed and hoed before planting. Well, this can be done manually, because most farmers who will plant Pak Choi will plant it on a small scale. Plowing can also be done using machines like tractor and so forth. Rotted pen manure can be mixed with the soil, and then the field is leveled. So you can apply the pen manure. You can just put it on the surface of the bed, and then use a fork to mix it up, and then you level the land. It is recommended that the bed should be 3 meters long and 1 meter in width. And the spacing between the seedling, if you put the seedling too close together, well, then the problem is that they will compete with one another for nutrients, and they will not develop properly. So you need a certain spacing between the plants. So the best or recommended amount of spacing between the plants would be 30 cm. So if you plant one seedling at one location, around that seedling, within 30 centimeter, there should not be any other seedling planted. If you do that, well, then the plant will not develop as healthy as it should. Care and maintenance. Weeding must be done regularly. Of course, if you have too much of weed around the pak choi plant, the weed is going to take up all the nutrients. So if the weed take up the nutrients, then the pak choi will not have enough nutrients to develop its leaves, and that would not make any sense. So the best thing is to remove the weed, and the most appropriate way is to probably use a cutlass, and between the plants, you can use your hand to remove it. You want to avoid using too much of chemicals, herbicides, because when the herbicides get onto the leaf, then if the herbicide do not break down properly and we consume those pak choi, well then it will affect us as human beings, and we don't want that to happen. In dry conditions, the plant should be watered regularly. Well, obviously, when the place is very warm, then the plant should be watered, preferably early in the morning and later in the afternoon, perhaps around 4 p.m. or so in the afternoon, 4 to 5 p.m. And sometimes it may be necessary to even water the plant 3 times per day, depending on the location and the type of soil. That is why, again, loam soil will be preferable compared to sandy soil. If you were to grow the crop in sandy soil, it means that you'll have to water the plant about 3 times per day instead of 2 times per day. The plants can be harvested about 6 to 8 weeks after sowing the seeds. So after you place the seed into the seed box and you transplant it, from that time to the time that you reap the crop or harvest the crop, it should be 6 to 8 weeks. There are some pests that will also affect the pak choi plants, and we have caterpillars and aphids. At the bottom, we have a diagram there showing how the aphids look like. They're very small insects. And then on the right upper side, you have the caterpillar. So as we can see, the caterpillar will cause a lot of damage to the leaves of the plant. It is recommended that you try to avoid spraying any chemicals. However, the amount of damage that the caterpillar will cause on the plants, the farmer will eventually have to make a choice. So in order to get rid of these pests that affect the plants, a farmer can use seven powder, we commonly call it in Guyana, and you dissolve 6 grams of the 7 powder in water, in 1 liter of water, 6 grams in 1 liter of water, and then you spray that solution onto the plants, and it should be effective to get rid of these pests. Oh, sorry. Good. For fertilizers, the plants will obviously need fertilizer. If you have the best type of fertilizer that you can provide for the plant would be organic fertilizer, and that is cow manure or other pen manure, for example, from poultry pen. Those that are well rotted over a period of time, because if the fertilizer, if the pen manure is used fresh, then it will cause damage to the plants because the pen manure is very acidic. They have lots of acid in it, and it cause damage to the plant, and you will lose the plants that you're growing. So well rotted pen manure is the most probably the best choice to make when you're trying to choose a fertilizer. However, there are other commercially available fertilizers that are essential, and one of the component of the fertilizer that you would want to ensure that your plant have would be nitrogen. The nitrogen is essential for proper growth. The leaf development is dependent on the amount of nitrogen that the plant would have. So a suitable fertilizer that can be used would be 15, 15, 15. And this can be applied around the roots of the plant. However, you should not apply it very close to the root, because if you apply it too close to the root, it will cause the plant to lose all the moisture that it has, and then the plant will eventually wilt and the plant can die. So there should be a little space between the plant and the area that you're going to apply the fertilizer. And after you apply it, you can cover it with soil, and this fertilizer will slowly release its nutrients. And you may wonder what 15, 15, 15 means. Well, the number 15 here would represent the amount or the percentage of a particular nutrient. So 15, 15, 15 means that you have 15% of nitrogen, and then you have 15% of phosphorus, and then you have 15% of potassium. So that's 15, 15, 15. There are other type of nutrients. There are other type of fertilizers that can be used. Some farmers may use urea, for example, and urea contains mainly or entirely nitrogen fertilizer. And some farmers may also apply TSP, and TSP is very good for root development. So those are the main fertilizers that can be applied to pak choi plants. Good. So this brings us to the end of this first topic, where we looked at how you can effectively cultivate pak choi plants. If you have any questions, please ensure that you message me and ask me for any clarification or any further understanding that you want to have based on the topic that we have looked at. So until the next time, I just wish you all the best.